Paying someone $10,000 to pretend to be like a long-lost friend and to be your bridesmaid is super weird. People hire her since they don't have any friends, which is super sad.
Wait, stop. Did you say $10,000 to be a fake friend? Is that a business or a therapy session?
According to Shane Hummus, it's a high-profit service business. He literally calls it weird, but brilliant, because she's done over 200 weddings.
I'm in the wrong profession, Lisa. I've been a long-lost friend for free for years. I need a contract and a cocktail.
Hustle Happy Hour!
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Hustle Happy Hour. This is the podcast where two friends sit down, grab a drink, and react to videos from the internet's favorite entrepreneurship gurus.
We're not here to hate, and we're definitely not here to worship. We break down what actually makes sense, what's overhyped, and what might get you into trouble if you follow it blindly.
If you've ever watched a guru and thought, wait, is that really true? You're in the right place.
So pour a drink, pull up a seat, and let's get into today's hustle.
I was actually just looking at my news feed this morning, and it honestly felt like I was looking at a dystopian bingo card.
Oh, let me guess. Lots of blockchain.
Yeah, exactly. It's all AI agents, crypto yield farming, decentralized finance, and drop shipping schemes that somehow involve like 3 different continents.
Right.
The narrative being pushed right now is just so aggressive. It's this idea that if you aren't leveraging the absolute bleeding edge of technology, you're essentially a dinosaur. You're obsolete.
Yeah, it's shiny object syndrome on a massive global scale. We are just collectively obsessed with complexity right now.
Definitely.
There's this unspoken assumption in the current market that complicated automatically equals profitable. I mean, if a business idea involves a neural network or a blockchain, people assume the ceiling is infinite. But if it involves, say, a mop bucket...
No, they assume it's dead in the water.
Exactly. They think there's no money there.
And I mean, that is exactly why today's topic feels so refreshing to me. We are completely flipping that script today. So for you listening, welcome to this deep dive. We are looking at a stack of research today, primarily some really fascinating analysis by business researcher Shane Hummus. We're reacting to a video titled Top 10 Best Simple Service Businesses That No One is Talking About.
Shane's a big name in the career and side hustle space, but here he's pivoting. He's claiming that while everyone is chasing passive income BS and shipping cheap plastic from China, there's a gold mine in simple, real-world services.
Exactly. He's citing government statistics from the BLS, saying these businesses have higher success rates. He's talking about people making anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 a month, cleaning crime scenes, renting out goats, or even just cleaning garage floors.
It's trending because everyone is exhausted by the AI automated drop shipping lies. People want something they can touch. But simple usually means hard work. So let's see if his math actually adds up.
And this is backed up by some hard government data.
Which is where it gets really interesting.
Right, because it argues the exact opposite of the tech bro narrative.
Right.
The central thesis we're unpacking today is what I like to call the boring millionaire theory.
Yes, I love that name. And it's a really compelling thesis. Frankly, it's one that usually gets ignored because, well, it isn't sexy.
No, not at all.
The whole idea is that while everyone else is fighting for absolute scraps in this incredibly crowded, high-tech digital marketplace, there are these massive economic moats and literally millions of dollars just hiding in plain sight.
Hiding in the boring stuff.
Yeah. We aren't talking about the next Uber here. We aren't talking about the next ChatGPT. We're talking about simple, unsexy, and sometimes downright weird service businesses.
And I really want to be clear about the scale here for everyone tuning in. We are not talking about a little side hustle to pay for a weekend vacation.
No.
We have sources today highlighting businesses that are pulling in $10, $17 million a year.
Which is wild.
Doing things that most people would just consider, chores.
Right, and this isn't just some anecdotal survivorship bias either. If you actually look at the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the success rate for traditional service models often vastly outpaces digital startups.
Which makes sense when you think about it.
It does, because the demand is inelastic. I mean, you can turn off your computer, you can totally ignore the metaverse, but you absolutely cannot ignore a hoarding situation in your living room.
Yeah, you really can't.
You can't ignore a dirty crime scene. You can't ignore overgrown brush in fire country when the dry season hits.
Or, as we will find out a bit later, you can't ignore the need for a goat.
The goat. The goat is a personal favorite of mine.
We were definitely getting to the goat. But just to lay out the roadmap for this deep dive, we are going to dissect 10 specific service businesses. But we aren't just going to list them off.
Right, we need to look at the mechanics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to understand how they actually make money. What are the margins? And most importantly, why are these specific models working so well right now?
Yeah, and as we go through these 10 case studies, I really want to highlight 3 specific strategic pillars that keep popping up.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, there's the dirty jobs moat, which is basically a psychological barrier to entry. Second is the hybrid model, where the physical service actually funds a media company.
Oh, that one is huge.
It is. And third is vertical integration, but in places you would absolutely never expect to see it.
All right, well, let's get our hands dirty. Literally. We are starting off with the dirty economy. And our very first case study is a company called Spalding Deacon, which was founded by Laura Spalding.
This is a heavy hitter to start with.
It really
Okay.
is. So Deacon stands for decontamination.
Okay.
Just to be clear, this isn't a maid service where they come in and fluff your pillows and vacuum the rug.
Not at all.
We're talking about cleaning up crime scenes, unattended deaths, hoarding situations, and meth labs.
Right. Now, if we look at this from a pure business strategy perspective, this is the ultimate psychological moat.
Explain what you mean by that.
Well, when we usually talk about barriers to entry in business, we mean capital, like it costs too much money to start a factory.
Sure.
Or a technical barrier, like you don't know how to code a software platform. But here, the barrier is purely the U factor. Most people, even if they really want to start a business and be an entrepreneur, simply cannot stomach the idea of walking into a room where a violent crime just occurred.
Yeah, I know I couldn't do it. It instantly limits the supply of competition.
Exactly.
But then let's look at the demand side of the equation. It's really grim to say this out loud, but crime, death, drug production, these things are fairly recession-proof.
Unfortunately, yes, they are. The demand is a constant baseline in any society. But the daily operations here are fascinating because you can't just hire anyone off the street.
No, you need some serious training.
You need people who are incredibly mentally resilient, and you also have to navigate this absolute maze of regulations because you're dealing with biohazards.
Yeah, blood and chemical.
Yeah, you need OSHA compliance, bloodborne pathogen certifications, proper disposal permits for hazardous waste. It's not just a guy with a bucket and some bleach.
And the financial numbers really reflect that level of complexity. According to the research, in 2019, Spalding Deacon pulled in $4.5 million.
That's a great year.
But then last year, they hit $10 million. That is serious growth. But here's where I kind of want to push back on this a bit, or at least play devil's advocate.
Okay, go for it.
A $10 million cleaning business is amazing, obviously. But is that the ceiling? Because labor is so expensive in this specific field. I mean, you have to pay people a massive premium to deal with, well, human remains.
That's a very valid point. If this were strictly just a cleaning business, the profit margins would eventually get squeezed pretty hard by those labor costs and the massive insurance premiums they must pay.
Right.
But Laura Spalding didn't just build a cleaning business, she built a real estate funnel. And this is that vertical integration aspect I mentioned earlier.
Okay, walk me through this part, because this is the exact detail that I found so fascinating when I was reading the source material.
So imagine the customer journey here. A violent crime happens or a severe hoarder passes away. The family inherits this house.
And it's a total disaster zone.
Exactly. There might be structural damage underneath all the trash, biohazards everywhere, smells that seem like they will never go away. The family is traumatized.
They don't want to deal with it.
They don't want to renovate it. They certainly don't want to list it on Zillow and host weekend open houses where neighbors come and whisper about what happened. They just want to be done with it entirely.
Right. They are distressed sellers in the truest, most literal sense of the term.
Exactly. So Laura Spalding is often the very first professional on the scene, and she realizes she isn't just the janitor there to mop up. She is the solution to their entire overarching problem. She realizes that after the cleanup is done, she is standing inside a distressed real estate asset.
Wow.
So she offers to buy the property as is for cash, or she acts as the real estate agent to sell it directly to her own network of investors.
So she's capturing the upfront value of the cleaning service, and then she's turning around and capturing the back-end value of the real estate transaction.
Precisely. And if you think about customer acquisition cost, or CAC in the real estate world, it's brutal.
Right.
Most real estate investors spend thousands of dollars a month on those "We Buy Ugly Houses" mailers.
Oh, yeah, or cold calling people all day long.
Right. But Laura says she doesn't need to spend a single dollar finding investment properties because the leads come directly to her cleaning business. The police refer her. The coroners refer her.
That is just incredibly smart strategy. But it also sounds quite risky, doesn't it? I mean, you are buying literally damaged goods. If the real estate market takes a dive, isn't she stuck holding a portfolio of, murder houses that nobody wants to live in?
That is absolutely the primary risk. Stigma is a very real thing in real estate. In many states across the country, you are legally required to disclose if a violent crime occurred on the property within a certain time frame.
Which obviously tanks the market value.
It can, yeah. However, her entry price when she buys the home is likely so incredibly low because of the horrifying condition of the house at the time of the sale that she has a massive financial buffer built in. She is buying at the exact point of maximum distress.
So she's essentially running a high-yield distressed asset real estate fund, and it's just disguised as a biohazard cleaning company.
That is exactly what it is, and that is why the revenue is $10 million and growing. It's not the scrubbing that makes the millions, it's the flipping.
Okay, let's pivot slightly. We'll stay in the cleaning world, but we're moving from crime scenes to just extreme filth. I want to talk about Ari, the founder of Clean Queen.
Ah, yes. This is a different beast entirely. And this brings us right to the hybrid model.
Right, so Ari specializes in houses that standard, everyday cleaning companies flat out reject.
Yeah, we're talking severe depression nests, hoarding situations, not necessarily the severe biohazards like Spalding deals with, but just unbelievable layers and layers of grime.
The kind of houses where you literally cannot see the floor.
Exactly.
Now, logically, if you look at this from a traditional business standpoint, this should be a terrible low-margin business. The clients living in these situations often don't have a lot of disposable income to pay premium cleaning rates. But Ari found a way to monetize the actual process of cleaning rather than just getting paid for the end result.
Because she's filming it.
Yeah.
And this touches on a massive trend right now. Satisfying content.
Yes.
You see it everywhere online. Power washing driveways, rug cleaning videos, and famously with Dr. Pimple Popper. There is a deep, weird psychological hook for humans in seeing absolute chaos turn back into order.
I have to admit, I've definitely fallen down this rabbit hole.
Huh?
You start watching a dirty rug getting beaten and lathered up, and 20 minutes later, you're still sitting there watching the foam turn brown. It's totally hypnotic.
It triggers a genuine dopamine release in the brain. It's resolution. And Ari fully capitalized on that human quirk. She has a YouTube channel where she simply documents these extreme cleanings. And the numbers are just staggering. We are talking about 1.23 billion views.
Okay, let's just stop there for a second. 1.23 billion. That is a media empire number. That's not a local cleaning lady number.
No, it is not. And if we break down the underlying economics of YouTube, even using very conservative estimates for ad rates, the revenue is massive. The estimates for her ad revenue alone range from $641,000 to over $2.1 million.
And that is essentially pure profit margin, right?
Sure.
I mean, she's already at the house doing the cleaning anyway.
Well, there's definitely the cost of camera gear, editing, and production, which isn't zero. But yes, compared to a physical service business, the margin is incredibly high. And here is the real kicker from the research. One single video on her channel earned her roughly $27,000.
$27,000 for one video. Think about that. She'd probably charge the actual client, what, maybe $500? $1,000 for a deep clean.
Probably even less than that if she's using the content as a barter system. A lot of these extreme cleaning content creators will actually offer to clean the house entirely for free on the condition that they get the exclusive rights to film the process.
That is such a fascinating trade-off. Basically saying, I will solve this massive, overwhelming hoarding problem for you for free if you just let me show the world how dirty it was.
It completely removes the financial friction for the client, who probably couldn't afford a $5,000 deep clean anyway. But think about the leverage Ari is creating here. In a traditional service business, you trade your time for money. You scrub the house, you get a check once.
Right. And if you break your arm and can't scrub, your income hits absolute zero.
Exactly. But Ari cleans the house once, gets the video content, and that single video pays her ad revenue royalties for years and years.
But doesn't this create kind of a perverse incentive structure? If the real money is in the YouTube views, does the actual cleaning quality suffer? Or does she start only picking houses that look really good on camera rather than the ones where people need the most help?
That is the reality TV risk, right? You start performing for the camera lens rather than providing a service for the client. But the irony in this specific niche is that the worse the house looks, the better the video performs algorithmically.
Oh, that's true.
So her financial incentive is actually perfectly aligned with finding the absolute worst, most unsalvageable situations, which are often the exact people that society has completely abandoned.
So the big takeaway lesson here for the listener is, if you're doing something highly visual, even if it's gross, or maybe especially if it's gross, film it.
Absolutely film it. The grosser it is, the higher the viral coefficient. It is pure shock value combined with a deeply satisfying redemption arc. That's a billion-viewer recipe.
Okay, let's move away from the grime for a second and step into what we can call the emotional economy.
Oh, this is a fun pivot.
This next one, I have to be honest, I have really conflicted feelings about this one. Bridesmaid for hire.
Jen Glantz. This is a brilliant and maybe a little dystopian case study in monetizing social connection.
So for the listener who hasn't heard of this concept, Jen Glantz literally rents herself out as a professional bridesmaid. She acts as the bride's quote-unquote best friend for the entire wedding weekend.
She holds the dress, manages the family drama, gives the heartfelt toast at the reception, gets the dance floor going, all of it.
And she charges a massive premium for this service. Her packages start at $2,500 and go all the way up to $10,000 per wedding.
$10,000.
To pretend to be a friend. I have to ask you, is this absolute genius or is this incredibly sad? Because it genuinely feels like an episode of Black Mirror.
It definitely triggers that commodification of humanity reaction in a lot of people. It feels weird to put a price tag on friendship. But let's look at the actual market need driving this. Jen started this business because she realized there are plenty of brides out there who simply don't have close female friends.
Right, maybe they moved around a lot for work.
Exactly. Maybe they work in heavily male-dominated fields and just don't have a girl squad. Or, and this is surprisingly common, they do have friends, but those friends are highly dramatic, completely unreliable, or have a tendency to make the bride's big day all about themselves.
Oh, I've definitely been to weddings like that.
Yeah.
So it's essentially outsourcing the emotional labor of the day. You aren't really paying for a friend. You're paying for a professional, highly competent support system that just happens to look like a friend in the photos.
Exactly. Think of it as risk management for your wedding day. You happily hire a wedding planner to handle the caterers and the florist, right?
Sure.
Well, you hired a professional bridesmaid to handle the people, to handle the emotions. If you look at it strictly as event management, specifically the social division, it makes perfect logical sense.
Okay, when you frame it like that, I can definitely see the value. But how does a business like this scale? Jen Glantz is just one human being. She can only physically be at one wedding on a Saturday night.
Right.
That puts a very hard cap on her revenue. Even if she's pulling in $10K a pop, she caps out at maybe $500,000 a year if she completely burns herself out working 50 weekends a year.
You hit the nail right on the head. Service businesses that rely entirely on the founder's personal time and physical presence are ultimately not scalable. That is the classic service trap. But Jen realized this limitation. She hit what we call the teaching pivot.
And this is the third pattern we keep seeing in these sources. Do, document, teach.
Exactly. Jen launched a digital course. She sells a $47 digital product teaching other women exactly how to start their own professional bridesmaid businesses.
So she's essentially franchising the underlying concept.
Yes, but without any of the massive legal headaches of setting up a traditional corporate franchise. She's just selling the IP. She's selling the blueprint. The course tells them, here is how you de-escalate a bridezilla. Here's exactly how you price your packages. Here is the legally binding contract template you need to use.
And the revenue from a $47 digital download is basically 100% profit margin.
Correct. Once it's recorded, it costs nothing to duplicate. And it allows her to monetize the thousands of women out there who watch her on TikTok and think, oh, I want to do that as a cool side hustle. While simultaneously, she keeps the ultra-high-ticket $10,000 luxury consulting gigs for herself.
It perfectly decouples her income potential from her actual time.
It's brilliant business architecture.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I do have to wonder about market saturation here. How many professional bridesmaids can the U.S. market realistically support before it's weird?
That is the million-dollar question. But because weddings are such incredibly high-stakes, emotionally charged, once-in-a-lifetime events, people are remarkably willing to pay for perceived safety. As long as there are incredibly stressful family dynamics at weddings, which will be forever, there will be a market for someone to come in and professionally absorb that stress.
That's a very fair point. Speaking of seasonal stress and these very distinct windows of opportunity, let's talk about Santa Claus.
Yes, Santa Mail.
Specifically, a business run by a guy named Byron Reese.
This one is an absolute masterclass in operational efficiency.
The core premise here is deceptively simple. You pay around $15, and your kid gets a personalized physical letter in the mail from Santa Claus. But the key, the absolute critical component that makes the whole thing work is the postmark on the envelope.
It has to have the authentic North Pole, Alaska postmark. That is the proof of work for the child. If that letter arrives and it's postmarked from Austin, Texas, the entire illusion completely breaks.
Right. So how does he actually do that? Because I'm assuming Byron doesn't live in an igloo in the North Pole.
No, he doesn't. And this is where the back-end logistics get absolutely crazy. He likely has a standard fulfillment center somewhere in the lower 48 states. That facility prints the customized letters and stitches the envelopes.
Okay.
Then they take all those individual envelopes, pack them into massive bulk shipping boxes, and freight ship those boxes all the way to the tiny post office in North Pole, Alaska. The postmaster up there opens the bulk boxes, takes out the thousands of individual letters, hand stamps every single one with the official North Pole seal, and puts them directly into the outgoing mail stream.
That adds such a huge layer of logistical complexity and, honestly, potential delay. You have to time that freight shipment perfectly, so the letter arrives at the kid's house right before Christmas, but not too early in November.
Exactly. It's a massive supply chain challenge. You basically have a tiny 4-week window to flawlessly execute 500,000 orders. Imagine if one bad snowstorm delays your bulk shipment up to Alaska. You suddenly have 500,000 angry parents demanding refunds and 500,000 crying kids. The reputational risk is off the charts.
That sounds incredibly stressful. But the numbers are undeniably huge. The source material notes he reached $1 million in sales way back in 2005.
And it's only grown since then.
Right. And the volume is around 500,000 letters. But let's talk about the real genius here. Let's look at the upsell.
The fake snow.
This is hands down my favorite part of the whole analysis.
It is the single most perfect upsell I've ever seen. Think about the unit economics. The parent is already paying for the postage, the paper, the envelope, and the fulfillment labor. For an extra couple of dollars at checkout, he includes a little pinch of quote-unquote magical North Pole snow inside the envelope.
Which is basically just cheap plastic shavings or some kind of specialized powder.
Right. The actual cost of goods sold to him for that snow is fractions of a single penny.
But the perceived value to the parent buying it is super high because it dramatically enhances the magic for the kid opening it.
Exactly. It significantly increases the average order value, or AOV, with literally zero additional shipping costs because it weighs nothing. That extra $2 flows straight to the bottom line as pure, unadulterated profit.
And he only has to work for the holiday season.
Well, the high-stress execution is entirely in the holiday season. The rest of the year is likely spent maintaining the server infrastructure, updating the website, writing the new letter templates, and prepping the massive marketing push. But yes, the actual revenue event is highly, highly concentrated into 1 month. It is a business that generates a full CEO-level salary. Current estimates show it netting anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 in pure profit for a very short sprint of intense operational work.
I feel like there's a really deep lesson in there about seasonality. We tend to assume that real businesses need to be grinding 24/7, 365 days a year.
Yeah.
But if you can make your entire year's financial quota in just December, you essentially have 11 months of freedom.
Or, 11 months to go build the next $1 million business.
True. Very true. Okay, from the joy of Christmas morning, we're going to transition to, well, the inevitable. Case study 5, grave care maintenance.
This actually creates a really strong thematic bridge with the Santa business we just talked about.
How so?
Both of these businesses rely on a very specific, very powerful emotional driver to make the sale. Guilt mixed with honor.
That is a very heavy psychological combination to build a business on.
It is heavy, but let me tell you, it moves markets.
Yeah.
The broader context here is demographic. We live in a highly mobile society now. You might have grown up in a small town in Ohio and your grandparents are buried there, but now you work in tech and live in San Francisco.
Right, you aren't flying back to Ohio on a random Tuesday to weed the family grave.
No, you aren't. But human nature dictates that you feel bad about it. You feel deeply guilty. You don't want your grandmother's headstone to be sinking into the mud and covered in moss while you're drinking lattes in California.
Exactly. So you hire a proxy. You essentially pay a local service to go out there, clean the stone professionally, trim the grass around the plot, and maybe leave a fresh floral arrangement.
Yeah. And the rates mentioned in the data are pretty decent. For someone doing this part-time, the potential is $200 to $800 a day. The individual service fees range from $35 to $100 per visit.
But I have to ask, is this really a scalable business, or is it just a weekend gig for a local landscaper?
Well, it absolutely starts as a gig, but it transforms into a real business through the magic of recurring revenue. Think about it, grass always grows back.
Stones get dirty again, flowers die.
Exactly. So it naturally becomes a subscription model. Once you acquire a customer who trusts you, unless they exhume and move the body, you basically have that customer locked in for, well, eternity.
Wow. It's essentially saws for the dead, subscription as a service.
That's incredibly dark, but mathematically accurate. But the real scalability challenge here isn't finding customers, it's the labor. Who really wants to hang out by themselves in quiet cemeteries all day long doing physical labor? It's very lonely work.
But once again, we see the media angle popping up to solve a problem, like that YouTube channel, the Millennial Stone Cleaner.
Yes, it's the exact same psychological hook as Clean Queen, just applied to a different surface. He's filming the meticulous restoration of these old, completely illegible headstones.
And there is something deeply, deeply respectful about watching it. You're literally watching someone give a name and an identity back to a person who had been totally forgotten by time. People love watching that kind of redemptive process.
It's very compelling viewing, and the economics are fascinating. The physical act of cleaning the grave pays him maybe $100 from the family. But the YouTube video of him doing that exact same act might pay him $1,000 in ad revenue.
And on top of that, the video serves as global marketing for his physical service. If a client sees how much care and respect you put into cleaning a total stranger's grave on YouTube, they instantly trust you to take care of their own mother's grave.
Exactly. It builds massive, irrefutable trust at scale, which is the hardest thing to do in a service business.
Okay, we are going to take a really hard left turn here. We have done crime scenes, we've done luxury weddings, and we've done graveyards. Now we are going to the farm.
I've been waiting for this segment.
I want to talk about the animal workforce. These are weird, but highly scalable.
This is where we really have to challenge our traditional definition of what an asset is.
Case study number 6, Rent a Goat. Founded by Mike Canada.
The name is beautifully literal. You have a massive field of tall grass or invasive poison ivy or dense brush. Instead of hiring a landscaping crew, you rent a hungry herd of goats to just eat it all.
I've actually seen this out in California, and it's surprisingly effective to watch.
It's better than effective. In very specific contexts, it is vastly superior to heavy machinery.
How so?
Well, imagine you have a ridiculously steep, rocky hill. You physically cannot get a heavy commercial tractor up there without it rolling over. And sending a guy up there with a handheld weed whacker is a massive liability because he might slip and fall.
Right.
But goats are biologically engineered over millions of years to navigate steep, rocky terrain.
And crucially for California, they don't spark fires.
That is the ultimate selling point for federal lands and fire breaks. Metal mower blades strike hidden rocks and create sparks, which start massive wildfires. Goats just chew quietly, and as a bonus, they naturally fertilize the soil as they go.
The revenue numbers in the source material for this are really impressive. Mike Canada has expanded his inventory to around 3,500 goats, and he is generating $2 million annually.
Which sounds amazing until you look at the operations.
Yeah, let's talk about the operational headache here, because this isn't a software platform. Your business inventory is alive.
Yes, and your inventory can literally escape and run down the highway.
Right.
It can get sick. It can be eaten by local coyotes. Just the daily logistics of transporting 3,500 goats to 5 different job sites across the state is an absolute nightmare. You need a fleet of semi-trucks. You need highly trained herding dogs. You need miles of temporary electric fencing that has to be set up and torn down daily.
So when we hear a number like $2 million in revenue, we need to be very careful not to confuse that with profit. The overhead on running a goat empire must be astronomical.
Oh, very high. You have massive vet bills, huge commercial liability insurance, the diesel fuel for the transport trucks. But there is one huge advantage. Unlike a John Deere tractor that constantly depreciates in value and eventually rusts out, goats reproduce.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, your asset base literally grows itself organically. You buy 100 goats, and a few years later you have 300 goats without buying any more.
That's a great point. You are getting paid by the state to feed your goats,
Yeah.
and they're busy making more goats for you to rent out. It's a compounding asset.
Exactly.
But I have to ask about the pivot they made, because this shows real entrepreneurial agility. During the pandemic, they launched a service called Goat to Meeting.
This was just a stroke of absolute marketing genius, even if it was a product of its time.
So for the listener, the concept was, for $50, a live goat joins your corporate Zoom call.
Yes. For 30 minutes, a goat, or sometimes a llama or a donkey, just silently stares at the camera from a pasture while your marketing team discusses their Q3 projections.
And the data says they made over $250,000 doing this.
That is the reported figure across their affiliate sanctuaries. Now let's just do the quick math on that. At $50 a pop, that is 5,000 corporate meetings.
5,000. That seems incredibly high.
It is an incredibly high volume, but you have to remember the context. This was launched during the absolute peak of lockdown boredom. Corporate managers were desperate for literally anything to break the crushing monotony of endless Zoom calls. It came out of a novelty team-building budget.
Do you think a digital service like that is sustainable long-term? Or was it just a one-time pandemic cash grab?
I think it's a classic flash in the pan. The novelty of it wears off very quickly. Once your team has had the goat on the call on Tuesday, you don't really need the goat back on Thursday.
Right.
But the deeper takeaway isn't the longevity of the Zoom goat. It shows the incredible agility of the business owner. He took a purely physical, analog asset, a goat, and found a way to digitize and monetize it at a time when his physical landscaping business might have been slowed down by lockdowns.
It's all about asset utilization.
Exactly.
Speaking of animals, let's look at another one. Case Study 8, Rent the Chicken.
Run by Phil and Jen Tompkins.
The concept here is essentially try before you buy, but for backyard farming.
Right.
You rent a couple of egg-laying hens, a portable coop, and all the feed you need for a 5 or 6 month period just to see if you actually like the homesteading lifestyle.
It is brilliantly lowering the barrier to entry. So many suburban families love the romantic idea of walking out back and getting fresh eggs every morning. They are terrified of the long-term commitment. What if they hate it? What if winter comes and it's too cold?
Exactly. Now, here is the number from the research that I really need us to scrutinize because it blew my mind. The source material mentions an estimated revenue of $10 million to $17 million for this business.
Okay, yeah, let's pause there. $17 million. Just renting out backyard chickens.
Right. If a standard rental package is, let's say, $500 for the summer season, to hit $17 million, that is 34,000 individual rentals every single year. That is an unbelievable amount of chickens.
That number feels heavily inflated if we were just talking about direct local rentals from one single farm in Pennsylvania. To ever hit that kind of massive scale, this absolutely has to be a franchise or an affiliate model.
It has to be. There's no other way the logistics work.
They likely have Rent the Chicken affiliate hubs set up all over the country. Phil and Jen aren't putting live chickens in a FedEx box and shipping them from Pennsylvania to a family in Oregon.
No, of course not.
They have local farmers acting as operators. Those local operators probably pay a hefty licensing fee to use the brand, or they are required to buy the proprietary coops and marketing materials directly from headquarters.
So the core company becomes a logistics and supply chain business, not a farming business. They are selling a business in a box to local farmers, who then do the actual renting to the end consumer.
That is the only way the math gets you to 17 million. It's face farming as a service. And think about the profit margins on the headquarters side. If they're manufacturing the wooden coops at scale and shipping them to affiliates, they are a manufacturing company.
Yeah.
If they are just taking a flat percentage cut of every local rental booked through their central website, they are a software platform.
It's a fascinating evolution of a simple idea. But again, zooming out to the consumer, it completely solves the psychological problem.
Yeah.
The fear of failure. If the chickens get sick or your kids get bored and you end up hating the whole experience, you just call the 800 number and the company comes and takes them back. No guilt.
It totally reverses the risk, and as we see time and time again in business, consumers will gladly pay a premium price for risk reversal.
Okay, let's move into segment 4. These are what I call the boring heavy hitters. We are moving back to practical home maintenance, but these are high-ticket items. First up, garage floor epoxy.
This one is a personal favorite of mine because it is driven by pure vanity, but applied to the most utilitarian room in the house, the garage.
The service is applying those super durable, shiny, resin-based layers directly over an ugly concrete garage floor. It takes a dusty, stained garage and turns it into a glossy showroom.
It is incredibly visually striking when it's done right, and in certain neighborhoods, that matters a lot.
The source data mentions an operator named Alex out in Palm Springs who's making $500,000 a month doing this.
$500K a month is $6 million a year in revenue. That is a massive, highly optimized operation just for pouring resin on garage floors.
How does one guy possibly hit that kind of monthly volume?
Well, he's definitely not just one guy driving around in a truck with a paint roller.
Right. To hit $500,000 a month, he is running a sophisticated sales and marketing organization that happens to fulfill its promises with epoxy. At that specific level, the business is 90% marketing. He is likely spending $50,000 to $100,000 a month purely on ads. Geo-targeted social media ads, plus high-end direct mailers sent exclusively to incredibly wealthy zip codes in the Palm Springs area. It's easily $2,000 to $3,000 per garage, minimum. The raw materials, the actual chemical epoxy, are not cheap, maybe $400 to $600 depending on the square footage and the quality of the flake they use. But the physical labor only takes a crew a day or two to complete. So the gross margin on a job is maybe around 50%. Roughly, yeah. But the real secret to scaling this specific service is the Joneses effect.
Exactly. In these tight-knit, wealthy, planned communities in Palm Springs, everyone leaves their garage door open on a Saturday morning. If Bob down the street gets his floor epoxied and it suddenly looks like a pristine Ferrari dealership, his neighbor Steve walks by and instantly feels inadequate about his own oil-stained concrete.
It creates a viral loop right within the physical neighborhood.
It's contagious vanity. The product literally markets itself every time the door opens. But there is a caveat here. Unlike the crime scene cleaning we discussed earlier, this is a pure luxury purchase. In a severe economic recession, nobody actually needs an epoxy floor.
That is a really great distinction to make. Spalding Deacon is essentially recession-proof, but luxury garage epoxy is heavily tied to the broader housing market and overall consumer confidence.
Correct. As an entrepreneur, you have to know exactly which economic game you are choosing to play.
Let's contrast that vanity play with our final case study, which is purely practical. Solar panel cleaning.
Run by Juan Pineda Sanchez. This is a great example.
Now, on the surface, this feels like a service that shouldn't even need to exist. I mean, they are outside. Doesn't the rain just clean them off?
That is the most common misconception, and it's exactly what homeowners say when you pitch them. But think about your car windshield. If you leave your car parked outside in the driveway for 6 solid months, does the rain keep the windshield perfectly clean?
No, not at all. It leaves water spots, a film of pollen, and dust everywhere.
And bird droppings.
Yes, the bird dropping.
Bird droppings are actually the mortal enemy of solar technology. Because they are opaque, they create localized hotspots on the surface that can permanently damage the internal cells of the panel over time. But the real sales pitch here isn't about making the roof look pretty. It's pure ROI, return on investment.
Right, because a dirty panel simply produces less electricity.
Exactly. Studies show that energy efficiency can drop by 20 to 30% if the panels are filthy. So the sales pitch to the homeowner is entirely mathematical. You just knock on the door and say, "Mr. Homeowner, you spent $30,000 installing these panels to save money on your electric bill. But right now, because of the dust, you are losing $500 a year in lost efficiency. Pay my crew $200 to clean them today, and you instantly net $300 in savings."
Wow, that is an absolute no-brainer sell. The service literally pays for itself.
It is the easiest close in the sales world. Because you aren't actually selling a cost to the consumer, you are selling a documented savings restoration.
The source data mentions a specific commercial case study from a company called PV Works, where cleaning a single 53-megawatt solar farm resulted in a $46,000 profit for the cleaning company.
That is the commercial side of the industry, and that is where the truly massive generational scale is. If you can manage to secure the annual maintenance contract for a utility-scale solar farm out in the desert, you are talking about cleaning tens of thousands of panels.
You would need specialized robotics or massive crews with water trucks for that.
You do. But even if you just stick to the local residential side, Finn Models Lab estimates that a solid, well-run local operation can pull in around $200,000 a year in profit.
And just like the grave maintenance, it's recurring revenue because the dust always comes back next season.
It's a guaranteed subscription model provided by nature.
So we've covered 10 incredibly diverse service businesses today. We went from crime scenes to renting out goats all the way to scrubbing solar panels. But before we wrap up, I really want to zoom out and synthesize all this information. If you look at all these sources together, what is the meta strategy at play here?
As we walked through these, a very clear structural pattern emerged. It's what we can call the triad of wealth for modern service businesses.
Break that triad down for the listener.
Okay. Phase one is the service itself. You just do the physical work, you trade your time for money. You scrub the hoarding house, you herd the goats, you hold the bride's dress.
Right.
This phase generates your initial cash flow, but crucially, it generates authority.
You are learning the actual ground level secrets of the trade.
Exactly. Then you move to phase two, which is media. You document the work you were doing, you film the crazy transformation from dirty to clean. This acts as massive, free global marketing for your local service, but it also creates a totally separate passive income stream via YouTube ad revenue or brand sponsorships.
That's the clean queen model we talked about.
Precisely. And then finally, you reach phase three, which is education. You teach the service to others. You eventually realize that you physically cannot clean every messy house in America, so you package your knowledge and sell the day how to start a cleaning business digital course. Or you create a franchise model like Rent the Chicken.
So this pathway seamlessly moves you from being a physical laborer to a media mogul and finally to an educator.
And that educator phase is where you unlock infinite financial scale because you can sell 10,000 digital courses in a weekend while you sleep. You cannot physically epoxy 10,000 garage floors while you sleep.
It almost seems like the boring, unsexy nature of the original business is actually your biggest asset when you reach the teaching phase. I mean, if I try to go online right now and sell a course on how to be a life coach, good luck. There are literally a million of those courses already.
It's totally saturated.
But if I sell a highly technical course on how to profitably bid and clean commercial solar panels,
It's incredibly specific. It's a blue ocean niche. And because you have the YouTube videos from phase two proving that you actually do the dirty work, you have undeniable trust. People online buy from actual practitioners, not just theorists.
so to the listener out there who's been stressing out trying to think of the next billion-dollar AI app, what's the advice?
Stop looking up at the cloud. Look down at the ground. Look around your neighborhood for the friction. Look for the mundane tasks that make normal people say, ugh, I really don't want to deal with that today.
The U factor is actually your best friend.
The U factor is a massive economic moat. The boring factor is an invisible shield against Ivy League competition. Because while 99% of ambitious entrepreneurs are desperately fighting over the tiny 1% of high-tech digital ideas, the other 99% of the real physical economy desperately needs to be cleaned, fixed, and maintained.
I think that is incredibly empowering.
I pulled some comments from the original video.
Let's hear them.
The supportive one. Finally, some real advice. I started a trash can cleaning business after watching your last video, and I'm already making $2,000 a month. No more drop shipping for me.
See, that's the hustle happy hour win. Small, scaled down, and real.
The skeptical one. Shane, you forgot to mention that to clean a crime scene, you need OSHA certifications, hazardous waste permits, and a soul made of granite. It's not simple at all.
Thank you. Someone pointed out the Spalding decon reality. You can't just decon a house with Windex.
And the unhinged one. I tried the goat thing in my studio apartment. The goat ate my lease, and the neighbors called the cops. 0 out of 10 stars.
That's what happens when you follow guru advice without a backyard.
Let's bring this to normal people. If you're a 9-to-5 employee with $2,000 in the bank, can you start Rent-A-Goat?
Probably not. You need 3,500 goats, a portable electric fence, and a way to transport a herd to California fire breaks. That's not a side hustle. That's a lifestyle choice that involves a lot of animal poop.
What about grave care? He says you can make $200 to $800 a day.
That's more realistic for a beginner. It's specialized, respectful, and has low overhead. But you have to be okay spending your Saturdays in a cemetery. It's simple, but it's not easy money. It's manual labor.
Shane also uses this video to pitch his own hybrid YouTube automation workshop and consulting. He's basically saying, service businesses are great, but you should really hire me to help you build a personal brand about those businesses.
That's the guru inception. The video is a lead magnet for his $47 course or high-end coaching.
So Bart, is this good advice, situational advice, or pure hustle hype?
I'm going to go with situational advice with a side of hype. The core idea that service businesses are more stable than online schemes is solid. But his examples are extreme. Most people won't make $10 million cleaning hoarding houses or $10,000 per wedding as a bridesmaid.
I agree. It's situational because it works if you actually want to do the manual work. If you're looking for passive income, this video will disappoint you because these are the definition of active income.
If you want to start, don't look for the weirdest business like rent-a-chicken. Look for the most boring one. Window cleaning, gutter repair, or power washing. It's not Black Mirror weird, but it's consistently profitable. And I want to leave the listener with a final, provocative challenge to chew on after this.
I actually have a question for them. If you're listening to this right now, I want you to pull up your credit card statement from last month. Look closely at it. What is something you paid for simply because you didn't have the time, the specialized equipment, or just the basic desire to do it yourself?
And then the follow-up question, could you be on the other side of that exact transaction?
Right. And could you film it? Could you franchise it?
The next millions might literally be hiding in your own weekend chores.
They usually are. And that's it for today's session at Hustle Happy Hour. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ready to level up and build something big.
If you want more, check out our other videos where we deconstruct more guru gems and traps. And hey, if there's a video you want us to react to next, drop it in the comments below or send us a link. We're always looking for the next hustle to deconstruct.
Until next time, stay spicy, but keep the hustle real and keep the drinks cold. Cheers.
Hustle